Imagine two people, two completely different lives. One wakes up to the sound of the river lapping against the banks and sunlight streaming through the cracks in a wooden house. Everything there is simple, but the day already begins full of challenges. Nothing is close by. To get to school, the health center, or even the nearest grocery store, he has to take a boat. And hope that the tide is good, that it doesn't rain heavily, that there is enough gas, and hope even more that there is a teacher, medicine, or someone available to help. The other wakes up in a compact apartment. She has breakfast, takes the elevator down, crosses a clean and well-lit street, and takes a bus that doesn't charge a fare. In a few minutes, she is in front of a modern school, a well-equipped hospital, or a wooded park where 80-year-olds run as if they were 20. You might imagine that one of these places is in a poor, forgotten town, and the other in a European capital. But what if I told you that both live under the same green and yellow flag? Yes, both are in Brazil. One is in Melgaço in Pará, the municipality with the worst human development index in the country. The other is in São Caetano do Sul, in Greater São Paulo, the city with the best human development index, HDI, in Brazil. On paper, this seems like just statistics. In real life, it's a difference in life expectancy, access to services, education, dignity, and future. Today, Belo Mundo will show you what life is like in the best and worst cities in Brazil. Number 1. Location and general data. Brazil is not an easy country to explain because it cannot be summed up in a single sentence or on a single map. It is immense in terms of territory and population. There are more than 200 million Brazilians living in a land that exceeds 3,281,000 square miles. To give you an idea, you could fit almost 24 Germanys inside Brazil, or 15 Frances, or more than 35 United Kingdoms. That's a lot of land. That's a lot of Brazil. Each corner has its own way, its own accent, its own food, and its own soul. It is a blessed and diverse people, formed by a mixture of indigenous, African, European, and many others who arrived over the centuries, creating a diversity that appears in their faces, speech, music, and even in the way they live their daily lives. But just as Brazil impresses with its cultural and human wealth, it also surprises with the profound differences that separate regions, cities, and realities. While some parts of the country offer a comfortable life, clean streets, well-equipped schools, and easy access to health services, others still struggle to guarantee the basics. From a teacher present in the classroom to a doctor available when someone gets sick. And it is in this contrast that the protagonists of our video today come in. Two cities that seem to live in different countries despite sharing the same flag. On one side is Melgaço, in the state of Pará, located in the far north of Brazil, right in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. Pará is one of the largest states in the country, known for its gigantic rivers, its biodiversity, and also for having been chosen as the venue for COP30, the UN Conference on Climate Change, which will take place in the city of Belém. Melgaço is an isolated municipality surrounded by forest and cut by rivers, where many people live in scattered riverside communities, without roads, without easy access, and with little presence of the state. On the other side is São Caetano do Sul, a city in the metropolitan region of São Paulo, the largest urban center in Brazil. São Caetano is small in size but giant in structure. It is an urbanized city with efficient public transportation, modern schools, and one of the best qualities of life in the country. When we put these two cities on the same map, what appears is not just a comparison of statistics. It is a stark portrait of inequality, and it is precisely this distance between a Brazil that works and another that struggles for the basics that we will try to understand from now on. Number 2. History. Do you see that city passing by in the images? This is São Caetano do Sul, a municipality that began to take shape at the end of the 19th century when Italian immigrants and workers who worked on the old railroad began to occupy the region. Years later, industries arrived, planned neighborhoods were built, and residential buildings transformed this tiny territory into one of the most organized and urbanized places in the country. São Caetano grew upwards because it had no space to grow sideways, so it became this compact city with aligned buildings, short streets, well-kept squares, and that neat neighborhood look where everything seems connected. Now look at these other images. This is Melgaço in the state of Pará, a municipality that only gained official status in the 60s, but whose real history is much older, marked by riverside communities that have always lived around the Marajó rivers. The city was not designed by engineers or planned in an office. It was shaped by water, by the forest, and by the way people learned to survive in the Amazon. Houses sprang up on the banks of the streams, often on stilts to escape flooding. The paths were traced by nature. Boats arrived before any streets were built, and even today the landscape is dominated by intense green, dark waters, and simple buildings that follow the rhythm of the forest. When we put these two images side by side, the aesthetic difference is so great that it seems impossible to imagine that they belong to the same country, right? But that's just the beginning. Number 3. Transportation. If the appearance of the cities already shows two completely different worlds, the routine confirms the gap when we look at the way each resident gets around on a daily basis. In Melgaço, everything begins, and often ends, on the river. It is a road, a bridge, public transportation, the path to any destination. It is the river that connects communities to the center, that takes children to school, people to the hospital, to the market, or anywhere else that requires leaving home. A child who lives in a riverside community has to wake up early, climb into a casco, which is what they call those simple boats, or wait for the school boat, which crosses hours and hours of water to reach a school on the banks of the Caquajó River. An adult makes the same journey, but to go to the health center, sort out some paperwork, or simply buy food. And that's where the detail comes in. Here, everything depends on the tide. If it doesn't help, there's no trip. If the weather changes, if it rains heavily, or if the wind blows against them, the engine can't handle it. The trip is canceled. And what was supposed to be a simple errand turns into a long, tiring, and sometimes even dangerous journey. There are no street corners to turn, no alternative routes, no bus stops with buses waiting. There is the river, only the river. Meanwhile, in São Caetano do Sul, it's the complete opposite. The city is small and well planned. There are sidewalks, crosswalks, paved streets, and everything is close by. Schools, gas stations, markets, parks, everything is just a few blocks away. And when the trip is longer, public transportation comes into play. And you know what's best? Since 2023, riding the bus there has been free. That's right, zero fare. You get on the bus, get off where you need to, and that's it. Life goes on. No turnstiles, no charges, no complications. You can leave home, take care of what you need to do, and be back in less than an hour. No waiting around, no crossing rivers, no wasting the day. And since we've talked about transportation, schools, and access to basic services, then it's only natural to dive into what is perhaps the most revealing aspect of this whole contrast: the infrastructure that each city offers when residents finally arrive at their destination. Number 4. Infrastructure. If the journey to the destination is already completely different between the two cities, What people find when they finally get there further highlights this contrast. And to make this clear, let's start with healthcare. In Melgaço, the municipality has only one hospital, and this hospital often operates at the limit of what is possible, lacking doctors, equipment, and infrastructure. The operating room is closed, the beds are damaged, there are not enough sheets, and even the doors are being devoured by termites. Consultations with specialists are rare. Tests take weeks, sometimes months. And if the case is serious, the patient needs to be transferred to another municipality. But that depends on the city hall's boat having fuel, the river being navigable, the weather cooperating, and a series of factors that no one can control. Many people who live in riverside communities know that getting sick is more than just a health problem. It is also a matter of luck, of time, of hope, and of faith. There are cases where people simply cannot make it to the hospital alive. Now cut to São Caetano. There, those who need care find a structure that looks more like a wealthy capital city. The city recently inaugurated a Tende Fácil Saúde Pedro Cassab, a modern center with 19 offices, diagnostic imaging, a 24-hour pharmacy, and a digital triage system that speeds everything up. In addition, the city has more than 20 basic health units and 2 specialized centers that offer care in areas such as cardiology, endocrinology, orthopedics, and pediatrics, all with online scheduling and short lines. Really short. In many specialties, people wait only a few weeks, not months or years. That's why many people don't even have health insurance. The public service is enough. Seniors get regular checkups, participate in sports groups, and live so long that they end up raising the average life expectancy. And the difference doesn't stop there, because in education, the gap follows the same pattern. In São Caetano, schools are well maintained, the buildings are modern, the classrooms are clean, well ventilated, with a large playground, sports court, science lab, and community garden. Children have English, theater, music, and robotics classes. And these aren't just for show, they're real. All of this keeps students interested, reduces dropout rates, and even makes families with more money choose public schools over private ones. The results are evident in the numbers. The literacy rate is one of the highest in Brazil, and the dropout rate is practically zero. Meanwhile, in Melgaço, the school begins to fail right from the facade. Inside the classroom, the tiles are broken, the wiring is exposed, the bathroom has no water, and the school lunch, when it arrives, is just juice and cookies. That's when there are classes, because sometimes the transportation doesn't show up, or the teacher doesn't come. There are months when the school only operates for 10 days, and this becomes routine. Children miss out on content, stay home, and then give up on studying. In the end, the difference is not just in access, it's in expectations and in the hope for a possible future. Number 5. Income, cost of living, and opportunities. If everything we've seen so far already shows 2 completely different worlds, when money enters the equation, the distance between these 2 cities becomes practically another planet. In Melgaço, the per capita income is around $1,260 per year. That's right, $7,000 per year. When we divide this amount, it comes to just over $104 per month. An amount that does not cover the basics, let alone allow for planning for the future. The local economy revolves almost entirely around extractivism, mainly acai. It is this that generates billions in the state of Pará. But in the interior, this money arrives in dribs and drabs, in an unstable manner and with a lot of physical effort. A good day's harvest can guarantee food on the table, but everything depends on the weather, the harvest, and the strength in the legs and hands of those who climb the acai trees. São Caetano, on the other hand, operates on a different logic. There, the GDP per capita exceeds $17,100 per year. This means that, on average, each resident of the city generates more than $1,440 per month per person, and even knowing that this average includes very wealthy people who pull the number up, the contrast is still absurd. While the residents of Melgaço need a whole year to earn $1,260, those in São Caetano see that amount pass in 30 days. Number 6. Public money. So far, we have talked about personal income, but there is another factor that weighs heavily when we talk about quality of life, and that factor is public money. When we look at city coffers, the difference becomes even more striking. In São Caetano, the 2023 budget, divided by the number of inhabitants, comes to around $2,700 per person. That's right, $15,000 per capita. That's more than triple what Melgaço can spend. With this breathing room, the city of São Paulo pays for free transportation, imaging exams in the public health system, specialist care, and still invests heavily in education, parks, urban drainage, social programs, and everything else. And there is a simple explanation for all this. São Caetano has a solid economic base. Strong commerce, an active service sector, organized companies, valuable real estate. The revenue comes from there. The money goes into the city's coffers because the city is thriving, and thriving well. Its own revenue covers more than half of all its expenses, and the more the city grows, the more it collects. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. But this comes at a price. The cost of living in São Caetano is high, so much so that many people who work there end up living in neighboring cities. People who wake up early, cross the border, clock in, and at the end of the day return home outside the municipality. Melgaço, on the other hand, lives in a totally opposite cycle. The city government collects almost nothing. The property tax is practically non-existent, and only about 6% of all spending comes from the city itself. The rest comes through transfers from the federal government, mainly the Municipal Participation Fund, along with some parliamentary amendments. It's not much, and when it arrives, most of it goes straight to the basics, keeping the public machine running, paying salaries, supplying ambulances, buying medicine, filling potholes. There is almost nothing left to invest in real terms, and the result is in the details. Broken ambulances, school boats out of service, closed health clinics, construction projects that never end. When the budget is large, the city breathes. When it is minimal, the population lives in constant hardship, in a cycle that stifles growth. And if everything seemed unequal up to this point, just wait and see what happens when we get to the scariest part, because there is one indicator that does not lie, and that indicator is life. Number 7. Life expectancy. If money, transportation, and infrastructure already show two different worlds, what really reveals this gap is how long people live in each of them. In São Caetano, the average life expectancy is over 81 years. This means that most people reach old age in good health, with mobility and an active routine. It is common to see elderly people walking in the streets, participating in sports programs, attending cultural centers, going to the doctor regularly, and living independently. In Melgaço, however, the average is below 72, almost 10 years less. It is as if time passes more quickly there, and the body feels the weight of effort sooner. The difference is so great that it seems as if the residents of one city are aging in another country. And that is no exaggeration. The numbers show that a resident of São Caetano is more likely to live to 80, while in Melgaço, for every 1,000 children born alive, dozens do not even complete their first year. This has a name. It is infant mortality, one of the saddest indicators there is, And this high rate has everything to do with what we have seen so far. There is a lack of doctors. There is a lack of infrastructure. There is a lack of access. And there is plenty of distance, delays, and neglect. It is inequality in its cruelest form. Melgaço and São Caetano are both in Brazil, but they seem like different worlds. In one, the school is a boat. In the other, it is a science lab. In one, the ambulance arrives too late. In the other, there are scheduled MRI appointments. In one, public services try to survive on crumbs. In the other, they provide free transportation and cutting-edge healthcare. What separates these two cities is not just geographical distance. It's infrastructure, budget, access, opportunity, priority. What about you? Had you heard of Melgaço or São Caetano? Have you visited either of these cities, or do you live in one of them? Tell us here in the comments. And of course, if you liked this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the hype button. That way, you help this content reach more people and show realities that are often invisible on the map. See you in the next video.